I am Tim with Golf Cart Garage. We are back once again. We come here every week and try to answer some questions, golf cart related questions that we get all week long. Customers calling in, asking questions, customers emailing, sending questions. I am a technician for Golf Cart Garage. I'm a member of the Gearheads On Demand service that we offer. Gearheads On Demand is a service where you can schedule an appointment for me to call you and talk to you about your golf cart related issue. You can click on the link in the description and that will bring you to the scheduling page. It shows all the available time slots that I have. Either myself or one of the other technicians here at Golf Cart Garage, you can set up an appointment for us to call you on the phone, or you can set up an appointment where we will send you a link to your phone and you just click the link, and then I can see out of your camera on your phone and I can see what you're pointing at. You can set up that type of appointment if you feel like it's something that I would need to see in order to be able to assist you. This is Thursday, June the 9th. We are live right now. We are live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. We're going to go over some questions that I have here that we've collected throughout the week, and we may even talk to some live chatters. In a few minutes I'll check the YouTube and Facebook to see if we have anyone in the live chat. If there's anyone in the live chat right now, feel free to say hi, feel free to ask a question. So the garage is now open for episode 38. This is episode 38. So since we're open, let's get started. Question 1. I removed the lighting kit. Looks like it was installed and hooked up wrong. I was getting pack voltage at the lights in front. Well, you definitely do not want pack voltage at your headlights because they're not going to take it. They'll burn out. So usually when someone buys a lighting kit, it comes with a wiring harness. Okay, it comes with its own wiring harness. Well, that wiring harness, you have to have a plan. How are you going to run your lights on 12 volts? So it depends on your car how you go about doing that. If you have a 36 volt car, you can hook your lights across two 6 volt batteries for a usable 12 volts. Or you could run a voltage reducer that reduces 36 volts down to 12 and hook your lights to that. So how were your lights hooked up? Were they hooked up to a voltage reducer, or were they hooked up across two batteries? Or if you have a 48 volt car, there's no way to find 12 volts, so you would have to run a voltage reducer across the entire pack. So it would be 48 volt down to 12. So were your lights hooked to some type of device like that, a voltage reducer? Now, also, something to keep in mind, there are some voltage reducers that only reduce the voltage when it gets under load. So in other words, they only drop the voltage to 12 when the lights are turned on. So you have to make sure that when you say you were getting full pack voltage at your lights, was that with them off, or did you turn them on and you're getting full pack voltage there? That would be my question there. So anyway, the answer to your question is determined by where was your wiring harness for your lights hooked up. Number 2. Hi, start of this year has been cold, but have noticed I have had to choke cart more often to get it running. This past weekend noticed a slight tick when the cart gets up to full speed going down the fairway. See, this is 2007 Yamaha gas. Well, what do you mean? Because cold weather does cause you to have to choke it. I mean, more often. So it would be a matter, my question would be, how often are you having to choke it? Because once it gets started, even in cold weather, once you get started and warmed up, if you just get off for a few seconds and get back on it, you shouldn't have to choke it again. So if you're having to choke it more than that, then you could have an issue. Most likely a fuel delivery issue, because what you're doing when you're choking it is you're actually just forcing it to pump more fuel. For some reason it's not getting enough fuel. So you're shutting off the air and it makes it pump more fuel. So now as far as the tick goes, you said you have, that's going to be something you're going to have to figure out. Like where's that noise coming from? Because I'm not really sure what do you mean by a tick. It could be one of your clutches, making a noise once, because once you get going wide open, those clutches are spinning pretty fast. So you could have a weight that's broken inside that clutch that starts ticking. That could be something. That would be my guess, because a ticking, if it's a constant ticking, a rhythmic tick, then it's going to be something that is spinning at a certain speed, and that your clutches are both spinning. So that would be probably where I would look on that. You could try. I tell you what, try to duplicate the tick by cranking your car in neutral. Putting Yamaha, you can just put the gear shift lever in between forward and reverse, just right in the center, and it will crank in neutral. Raise your seat and step on the gas pedal, crank it in neutral, and watch your clutches, and go ahead and go wide open to see if you hear the tick. If you don't, then you know it has something to do with your wheels and tires rolling. It doesn't have anything to do with your clutches spinning, because your clutches are going to be spinning just as fast sitting right there. Okay, let's see. Number 3. I have a 2012 Yamaha. That's those letters there, YDREX. That's a Yamaha Drive electric cart. I step on the accelerator. The cart goes 5 feet and cuts out. I replace the solenoid. Also, when I hit the toggle switch for tow run, it will reset. Then I push the accelerator and it goes 5 feet and quits. Batteries are fully charged. This is number 3. Was that number 3? Yeah. Okay. It's that could be a symptom of a couple of different things. That could be a symptom of a controller, or it could be a symptom of your controller going out, or being out already, or it could be a symptom of a speed sensor fault. Speed sensor is on the end of your motor in that particular car, in that Yamaha Drive. It's going to be the device that's on the end of your motor. It's really just a magnet that's on the end of your motor that's monitoring RPMs as it's spinning, and it's got wires coming out of it. That would be the least expensive thing to do first, would be to go that route. And then if it's not, then it gets more expensive from there. If it's not your speed sensor, then it's most likely going to be your controller. But I would be guessing on that's a speed sensor issue. Number 4 is from Doug. It's an EZGO. Date code that date code means it's a 2009. Just replace the batteries. Golf cart does not move. No acceleration. Turn key switch to reverse, has a beep sound. Turn key switch to neutral, beep and sound. Turn key to drive, beep and sound. Both forward and reverse. Cart jumps 2 inches in reverse. Any suggestions or what to look for? Did the car run before, Doug, before you replaced the batteries, would be my first question. Was everything fine before you replaced the batteries? If so, are you sure that did you get any kind of arcing or anything during the battery install? Did you remember to put the run tow switch in tow when you did the battery job? Now, I would have several questions like that, because if it ran before, then obviously this doesn't make sense. But if because of the symptom you're describing, I hate to say it, that's a symptom of a bad controller. I have seen bad controllers do exactly what you're describing. But the fact that you just did a battery job makes me want to ask questions about that too first. Let's see, that was number 4. We're going to go over to Facebook and YouTube for a second just to see if we got anybody. We do. On Facebook, we've got David Klein. What's up, David Klein? Let's see, I have a question about my 98 EZGO TXT. I recently replaced the input shaft in the axle housing. The old shaft was completely stripped and had no splines left. The coupler on the electric motor had some wear, but nothing terrible. My question, let's see, the coupler on the end of it had some wear, but nothing terrible. My question is, before the shaft was replaced, there was a grinding / knocking noise that did not alter the cart's ability to drive, just obnoxious to have and hear while driving all the time. Now that I've replaced the shaft, the cart has somewhat of a whine, like electric engine, but as I drive past other carts, I don't hear that same whine. Is it just the new shaft, or did I need to the new shaft up a bunch before installing? Need to live the new shaft up a bunch before installing. Let's see, David, let me think if I make sure I understand your question there. You replace the input shaft, okay? First of all, where did you get the input shaft from would be my question, because that's a very, very important piece that the tolerances on it have to be really, really good, have to be really tight. It could be just a little bit out, the tolerances not quite as good as OEM. If you didn't go with OEM, I don't know if you did or not, I hope you did. Okay, you got it from Golf Cart Kings, I got you. I would want to know where that shaft came from. Because if it's making a noise that it wasn't making before, that would concern me. That would concern me. You need to, oh, not live lube. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it really wasn't necessary to lube it. I wish you would have maybe put a little bit of lube on it before you put it in. But if you think about how it works, it really wasn't necessary, because the main gear, the big gear, I don't remember what the spider gear or the big gear, it picks up the gear end, the rear end oil off the bottom, and then brings it all the way to the top, all the way to that input shaft. So it would get lubed instantaneously as soon as the wheels turned. You know, that's the way a differential works. There's not, but I mean, just make sure you got gear oil in the rear end, and you should be fine there with the lube. The whining noise may, if you think about it, it may go away. You know, as it breaks in, it may go away. So you may get lucky there. You know, I would let it run for a little bit and see if it gets irritating. See if as long as you don't hear a metal to metal grinding sound, you should be fine. The whine, like I said, the whine may dissipate over time. But anytime I've ever installed an input shaft, I never got a, if anything, anytime I've ever installed an input shaft, it got quieter. I mean, we didn't add a noise. Everything got even quieter. When everything's working good, it's amazing how quiet that differential can actually be. Let's see, you said I chalked it up to either the older motor or new part. Well, I can tell you all the things that have ended up making a noise in EZGO TXTs for me out of the rear end. One of the main ones, one of the main things that makes a noise is the bearing in the motor. You know, the motor has that bearing in it. That can make a heck of a noise. But it's more of a metal to metal grinding noise. I've had that make a noise, and I've had the input shaft make a noise because of something similar to what you're describing, because of the coupler being torn up, or the input shaft itself, the splines getting torn up. So I've had the bearings on the input shaft, and the bearing in the motor. So that's why anytime I have a motor off of a golf cart, I usually go ahead and go through the trouble of actually replacing the motor bearing, whether it needed it or not. I always have a nice brand new motor bearing just sitting there to put in there, just for that reason. Let's see about YouTube. Oh yeah, we got some people in YouTube. We got Jay Jennings. Jay Jennings, what's up, man? Let's see, I have a 98 48 volt Club Car DS. I recently installed an inverter. Ran it to a fuse box. From the fuse box, I ran the lights to a 15 amp fuse on its circuit, and headlights to its own circuit with 15 amps. Previous owner had the lights wired directly to the batteries. I'm guessing it was 26 volts. The lights are more dim now than they were originally. Not 26, 16. The way they had it ran was inline fuse that blew, and then the headlight bulbs blew out. That is why I ran them to the 12 volt fuse box. Okay. There is a voltage reducer out there, I think this might be what you're describing, that reduces 16 volts down to 12. Is that what we're talking about here? Is that how it was? Because that would be the way to do that. I mean, you don't want to run your lights off of 16. They may work for a little while, They may burn really, really bright, but they're going to blow out eventually. They're going to blow out prematurely if you try to run them off 16. Let's see. Okay, it says they had it at 16. Okay, they had it at 16 with no voltage reducer is what you're saying. Well, that was definitely a problem because they're not going to last. Okay, you ran it to the 12-volt fuse box. Okay, how do you have a 12-volt fuse box? Do you have that because you're using a voltage reducer? Would be my question. Lights are more dim. Okay, yeah, that is correct. You are correct. We must be talking about halogen lights, by the way. Yeah, if you do have a voltage reducer, and you was wondering, that is why the lights are more dim? Yes, because they were using it at 16, and like I said, at 16 volts, halogen lights will work, but they will burn really, really bright, and they will go out sooner than you want them to. LEDs don't seem to be affected by that little bit of voltage change as much, but halogens do. So yes, that is why you're more dim. It's because you're running them on 12 volts. If you want to get that brightness back up, then switch them out to some nice new LED lights, and it'll get your brightness back. Okay. Let's see. We're going to go back to number 5. I'll check back with you in a second there. Number 5, I have a club car that does not accelerate smoothly and lurches when accelerating. What parts do you think I need? Batteries are fully charged. Well, the device that's responsible for your smoothness of your acceleration is your potentiometer in all golf cars, in all electric golf cars. So depending on what year and what type of car you have, or what model of car, you're going to have a different type of potentiometer. Any type of lurching or anything like that, just unexpected lurching, I would blame that on whatever potentiometer. If it's a club car of certain years, it's going to be an core. If it's a club car of certain other years, it's going to be a V-Glide. If it's an EZGO, it's going to be ITS of a certain set of years. If you're talking about an old car, you're going to have the old wiper style potentiometer where the wiper arm goes across some contacts. It goes across some copper contacts, and that's how the car speeds up. There's several different things it could be, but most likely it's going to be whatever potentiometer you're using in your car. Let's see. Number 6 is from Victor. I replaced the batteries in my 2010 Club Car Precedent. After I was finished, I turned the key on, heard a pop, and now my headlights and horn don't work. Everything else is perfect. Any suggestions on what to look for? Well, normally, or a lot of times, when someone puts headlights and horn, and if your car has a horn, it's very possible that someone has installed a complete street legal kit on it, and that would come with a wiring harness. That wiring harness is going to be the wiring harness that has got your lights wired to it, and your horn is going to be involved in that same wiring harness. Now that wiring harness is going to have to connect to 12 volts somewhere. So your car is either a gas car, or it's an electric car. You're running a voltage reducer. Well, your horn is 12 volts also. That pop that you heard most likely was the fuse. So in that wiring harness is going to come with its own fuse. So find out how your lights are hooked up, where they're hooked up for power. They're probably hooked up to a voltage reducer, or they're hooked up to one 12-volt battery, or they're hooked up to two 6-volt batteries. Your car is a 48-volt car, so it's going to be either a voltage reducer or they're hooked up to 16 volts like we just got through talking with 𝗟𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗁 over here, and that's not a good idea to do either. So look for the fuse for the wiring harness for your lights, and that would fix your lights and your horn. It most likely what blew. Let's see, 𝗟𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗁 says there was evidence of overheating from before. Yep, at 16 volts, they're going to burn hot. So do you have any idea how to adapt the Summit 2 charger to a Raspberry Pi for remote Wi-Fi connectivity? A Raspberry Pi for remote Wi-Fi connectivity. I do not know the answer to that. I'm sure that it probably could be done. Let's see. Number 7. I just had brand new Trojan batteries installed, and my battery meter does not appear to be working. I run the cart some and the battery meter goes down, but when I charge it fully, the battery meter does not move back to full. I was just trying to figure out what might be the cause. Let's see. Well, which battery meter are we talking about? I never did like those battery meters, those battery gauges that much, because they're notoriously inaccurate. I don't like my customers to try to rely on them. You know, they work, yes, they work, but so it would be. I'd have to know. First I'd have to verify which one you got and what voltage is your car, and make sure that you got the right one for the voltage of your car. Because you could get a battery meter for a 36-volt car, or you could get a battery meter for a 48-volt car. 𝗟𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗁 says he stumped me. Yep, you're right, man. You did. You stumped me on that one. Let's see. Number 8. I have an EZGO RXV 48 volt, and it stopped charging. The gray wire on the charge receptacle melted at the black box at the terminal. I replaced the receptacle with a new one. Now when I plug in the charger, the green light on the cart plug indicates charging, but the charger, a powerwise QE, is flashing 2 reds repeatedly. Also, if I unplug the charger from the 110 outlet and the charger plug is plugged into the cart, the green light flashes even though the charger has no power. Let's see. Well, we'll take this one step at a time. Your charger is DC activated. So the fact that it's green when it's plugged into your cart, not into the wall, that's probably normal for that QE. So the 2 flashing reds is definitely going to be a fault code, but is a fault code specific to that powerwise QE. So you need to look up the fault codes for that particular charger. It may say it on the charger. I don't remember if it says it on a powerwise QE or not. But you need to look up the 2 flashing red fault code and see what that means. Now, what I would also love to be able to do is you to use that charger on another cart and make sure that it's not doing the same thing on someone else's cart because you worked on your charging receptacle. I'd like to eliminate the charger as being the issue, and the quickest and easiest way to do that would be plug it into another cart and make sure, a working cart that's normal, and make sure it does the same thing. If not, then we know that there's something still awry with your cart, most likely your charging receptacle or your batteries. But that would be the things that I would need to know. We need to know what the fault code means. Is it the charger or not? You know, eliminate that, and then we'd go back to the charging receptacle thing that you worked on. Let's see. I have a 2011 Yamaha 48-volt cart. It runs fine. When I set the brake, the solenoid keeps clicking some, which is annoying to me and my playing partners. Also, occasionally when I'm coasting with my foot off the accelerator, the car tries to brake and a short beep sound like the sound of reverse. it sounds to me like your solenoid is dropping in and out, and that I would check the pedal stop switch. See, there's a switch on a Yamaha. There's a switch down there under your pedal. Yamaha, it's easy to take the floor mat out. You can remove the floor mat, and there's an access panel around where your accelerator pedal is. You remove that access panel, and you can see the pedal stop switch. Sounds like to me when you set the brake, something may be awry down there. You could have a stick jammed in it or something, and it's causing that pedal stop switch to activate and unactivate. And it's still doing the same thing when you're riding around, because when it unactivates, it would be like you're trying to push the car with it in run, and it would kind of electrically brake. So that's why it's supposed to stay activated when you let off your accelerator pedal if the car is rolling. The solenoid is supposed to stay activated. For some reason, it's coming unactivated. So I would check that switch, that pedal stop switch, and see what's going on with that. You might have to do a continuity test on it just to make sure that it's operating on and off like it's supposed to. Let's see. Let me check Facebook and YouTube again. Jay Jennings says have you ever adapted airbags to a cart? I have not. I've heard some people talk about that. I want to add airbags to mine, just not sure where to start or what airbags to use. I would just probably use some out of you may have to figure out a way to adapt the whole steering wheel from a car to a golf cart. Like I don't know, a small car with smaller airbags, I would think, like maybe a Toyota steering wheel with airbags involved in it, but I don't know. That would be a heck of a project there. I've never seen anyone do that. I have a really fast golf cart and it doesn't have airbags, so I don't know why somebody would want to do that. Let's see, checking on Facebook, seems like we're good there. Okay. Number 10. I've just purchased a used club car, serial number AC01. That means it is a 2001. When you push the accelerator, it surges and you can hear a solenoid clicking on and off, so it's not running smooth. What do I start checking first, or what would be a common problem for this? It also has 6 Trojan batteries of 19. Well, you said what to check first. Well, I can tell you this. I understand your batteries are 2019, but it's always a good idea to check battery voltages first. I mean, I'd always eliminate batteries first as being the issue, because one cell being low in one of those batteries, just one cell in one battery, can cause some jerking symptoms, can cause all kinds of acceleration problems. Everything may be okay on the surface when you check surface voltage, but as soon as you start to put them under load and take off, you could have an issue with one of those batteries. So that's the first place to start. Now, after that, then we're going to be talking about if that turns out to be fine, if your batteries are fine, I would be asking questions about your potentiometer. In the 2001, I believe 2001 is going to use 𝗟𝗂𝗃𝗲. It's either going to be V-Glide or 𝗟𝗂𝗃. I think it's going to be 𝗟𝗂𝗃 in 2001. That would be the next most common problem, would be the 𝗟𝗂𝗃 issue. That's got the micro switch in it that activates the solenoid, and it also is responsible for your acceleration curve, the smoothness of your acceleration. So it actually has both things. It's involved in both of your symptoms. So it would be that next, but always eliminate batteries as the problem. Is the problem first. Let's see, this is number 11. I have a vintage EZGO cart that is electric, and it has lost its power for going up hills. It has 6 volt batteries, which all check 6 volts. What would be the problem? It is probably 30+ years. It has lost its power for going up hills. Okay, well again, I would eliminate the batteries. Now I know you said they check 6 volts, but you need to understand something. If it's 6.0 volts, that is considered a dead battery. A lot of people don't realize that. There's a big difference between 6.0 and 6.37. 6.37 would be around there, would be considered a fully charged 6-volt battery. So, but if this only 6.0, as soon as you take off, you're dropping down below 36 volts as soon as you take off. So that could be the cause of your loss of power on hills. So I would want to know more specific battery readings, you know, to see where you're actually at. Okay, number 12. Let's see, we were using our golf cart, we started to go, and a whole bunch of black soot came out of the muffler onto the ground. We've not had a lot of power using the cart since we changed the fuel filter, spark plugs, air filter, fuel pump, not sure why. The cart is a 2009 EZGO. Can you help? If it blew out a whole bunch of black soot just all at once, did it backfire? I mean, is that what you're saying? It backfired when you started it and blew some stuff? Because that could be normal. I mean, you could have had some buildup carbon and, you know, and soot in your exhaust, and as soon as it started, it backfired because you had some fuel, some overflow fuel on top of the piston, and it just broke some of that stuff loose in the exhaust and just blew it out. That would be kind of normal, except for the backfire itself. So the backfire itself could have been caused by a stuck float in the carburetor. If the float is stuck, as soon as you stop, if the float and needle and seat in the carburetor bowl did not shut completely off, then more fuel could get past there with past the carburetor with the engine not running, and so it's not burning it up. So some of it could have gotten inside the piston. And then as soon as you put your foot back on the gas, boom, you know, it ignited it. It ignited all that fuel and caused it to backfire. So that could be what happened. I mean, I'm guessing, but I wasn't there, so I don't know all the scenario. Let's see, number 13. Is it possible or likely to have a clogged muffler on my used cart? It's a 99 EZGO TXT. It spent most of its life as a rental on a golf course. Well, it is possible, but it would be more likely, you know, that you had a clogged muffler. And I'm talking about naturally clogged muffler. If it was an older golf cart that was 2-stroke, your car is 4-stroke, so that would make it less likely to have a clogged muffler, but not impossible. Could be many things. I mean, it could be a rat's nest. You know, the rats could go up in there and build a house inside there. Could be causing you some issues. Could be dirt daubers that got up in there and made a dirt dauber nest with mud, and then as the cart heats up, as the muffler heats up, it cakes that mud and turns it into cement. So it is not likely, but it is possible, is what I would say. It is very possible, but less likely than a 2-stroke. Number 14 is from Michael. I have a 1990 club car. Would it benefit me to change out the old electric motor, maybe a little more speed, and is it a pain to change? Well, I can tell you this, if your car is working, the electric motors in golf carts, they don't really tend to lose power over time or lose speed over time. If you've lost power, if you've lost speed over time, it's most likely because of your batteries or some other issue. It's not going to be your motor. Now, of course, you could get another motor that would benefit you and give you a little more speed, or you could get a motor that would give you a little bit more power. Generally, you sacrifice one for the other. Now, we do sell combo kits at Golf Cart Garage that give you percentages on the increase in both, but that's because they come with a controller, a new solenoid, and a motor. So you could do something like that, and that would benefit you the most. But as far as it being a a pain? No, it's not difficult at all to change a motor. Now, the only thing that's difficult about it is that motor is heavier than you think it is. That motor is pretty heavy. So you undo the bolts, and when you go to slide it off, you got to have a plan to hold it, because as soon as you slide it off of that input shaft, you're going to be holding the entire weight of that motor. And it's probably 60 pounds or more, you know, just for that motor. All right, having trouble installing the RHOX 2 USB outlet on my 2012 EZGO RXV. I have all the wiring done, but when I turn the cart on, it will not work. Well, my question would be, where did you hook it to? Because if your car is gas, you just hook it to your battery. I mean, you don't really need a wiring diagram for that, because that's a 12-volt item. So if you're an electric car, then I'm assuming that you're hooking it to a voltage reducer, because that is a 12-volt item. That's a 12-volt accessory. So it's got to be hooked to a voltage reducer. So that would be my questions on that one. Number 16 is from Bob. I have turned the governor screws out 1.5 inches on my 2000 G16 Yamaha. What size tires to go with so I don't bottom out? I don't want to lift it, and what else to try to get more speed out of a gas golf cart? Well, if everything is stock, I mean, the biggest tire or the tallest tire that you can put on a car that's not lifted is going to be somewhere between 18 and 20. Now, 20 is going to be pushing it. I mean, that's why I would never say that 20 would work, because it's going to depend on your spring condition, because once springs wear out, you know, your golf cart actually could sit lower and lower and lower over time, just sitting there once the springs wear out, or it could be leaning over to one side. It's very, very common to look at an older golf cart and see that it leans to the driver's side more than it does to the passenger side. It's because it spent a lot of time with only one person in it, and those springs on that driver's side are a little bit more worn than the other springs. If you constantly had two people in it the whole time, its whole life, that probably wouldn't happen. So the tallest tire you're going to be able to put, and I'm assuming you're wanting to go with taller tire just to get a little bit of increase in speed from what you said, it's going to be somewhere between 18 and 20. Stock is 18 inches. That's going to be about stock, is what it came with. So you could try a tire that was a little taller than 18 and get a little bit of benefit in speed. You already have turned your governor. I'm assuming you've screwed the governor in all the way on there, and that's going to be about all you can do. You don't want to go too far on the governor, because then it's going to start affecting your slow speed driving. That's what a lot of people have noticed. If they turn their governor in too far, then the cart won't operate slowly anymore. And I mean real slow, like creeping around in the woods or something. You can't do that anymore. That's why I don't like messing with the governor at all, actually. If I wanted to speed up a gas car, I would skip right to it and put high-speed gears in the rear end, because the clutches and everything would compensate for the loss of torque. So, you know, you're going to have higher speed gears in the rear end, so the car is going to be faster. There's no doubt about it. So that would be what I would do. Put higher speed gears in the rear. Let's see. I'm going to check Facebook and YouTube. Jay Jennings says, awesome, thank you. For transport from my cart can be lifted and still have clearance to get into my cargo trailer. Plus would make a smoother ride. Yeah, all right, that's cool. Let's go over here to Facebook. Let's see. David Klein. I also have same problem as question 11. Newer batteries in cart, 2020 Trojans. Flat speed is great, uphill is slow. (2020 Trojans). Well, although it would be rare to have a bad battery in 2020 Trojans, I would still if a cart was in my shop, I would still eliminate that as the issue first. And what car are we talking about there, by the way? 2020 Trojans. Are we talking about the same cart? No, we're not talking about the same one, are we? Oh, my cart is lifted with mud tires. So I figured that could be part of it. Yes, anytime you put taller tires, anytime you put taller tires on a golf cart, an electric golf cart, essentially what you've done is you've changed the gear ratio. You've made the cart riding around in second gear rather than in first gear. So you've changed the gear ratio essentially, and that's going to cause you a loss of torque. Now, you can compensate for that loss of torque in many different ways. You could replace the motor. You put a torque motor in there. That would help. That would be the main thing. Put a torque motor and a higher amp solenoid would compensate for the loss of torque. But yeah, putting taller tires can cause a lot of problems on a stock electrical system. So that would probably be my guess, is that even though they're your 2020 Trojans, when you start to climb a hill, it feels those taller tires right off the bat as soon as you start trying to climb a hill. Let's see, we've got Victor Hicks. What's up, Victor Hicks? Thank you for coming in the chat. Just replaced my controller, and my 2000 EZGO will not go reverse. Replaced forward and reverse, and it will not reverse. Okay, your 2000 EZGO, is it a PDS or a, let me see, can it be a DCS in 2000? DCS was definitely 1999, and it's very possible that DCS went over into 2000. So either way, does it have a, let me ask you this, does it have a run toe switch? Does your 2000 have a run toe switch? Oh, it's a PDS. Okay, I got you. You said it right there. Well, you know what the device in your car that's responsible for forward and reverse is, right? It's your controller. Your controller in that car electronically switches polarity to the motor. Like, to make the motor spin the opposite direction, you have to switch polarity. And when you don't have a run toe switch, that means you have a series system, and the way you switch polarity is mechanically with that big mechanical forward and reverse switch. Well, the way your electrical system switches polarity, it switches it electronically with that, and that controller is the thing that's responsible. Let's see, you said you just replaced it, and my 2000 EZGO 36 will not reverse. Place forward and will not reverse. Okay, so you're telling me that it will go forward. Is that what you're saying? It will go forward, but it won't reverse. Because I'll tell you what you can do. If that is the case, you can switch F1 and F2 around. That's the black wire and the white wire on top of the controller. Switch them around and see if it does the opposite. See if your motor will go in reverse and not forward. You understand what I'm saying there? Let's see, David Klein says he's got the 98 EZGO TXT. Okay, so that's the one that you're having problems on. Yeah, okay. It's a 98 with the 2020 Trojans with the taller tires. Yeah, I'm going to blame that one on taller tires. Victor runs for great. All right. Let's see. Before I forget, I need to remind everybody out there not to forget to go to golfcartgarage.com and look for this logo. This is EZGO Extreme Golf Cart Makeover Season 2 with Dave. He's got a bunch of videos out. You can go over there, click on this logo, and you'll get info on how to win cash and prizes that we'll be giving away. Also, if you have some golf cart related issues and you feel like you need to speak to me, or you feel like that you could benefit from speaking to me or one of the other technicians at Golf Cart Garage, click the link in the description. That will take you to the scheduling page for Gearheads on Demand, and it'll show all the time slots, and you can schedule an appointment, and I'll call you. You pick the time slot that's convenient for you, and either myself or another technician will call you. We'll see if we can help you with your issue, see if we can save you some money. And instead of dragging your cart all the way to a shop, to have it worked on, we'll see what we can do. Can't always help everybody, but a lot of times I'm able to steer someone in the right direction because I have either experienced their issue or something similar, or I just have some advice, and they seem to really appreciate it. They seem to appreciate talking to someone who's been there before and is at least familiar with their issue. Let's see. We'll check. Jay Jennings wants to know, does he get a prize for stumping me? Not yet, but we're working on it. That may, believe it or not, that may be in the future. If you stump me, then you may get a prize, but not today. But you keep trying, because I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody coming into the live chat, and even if it's just to say what's up or just try to stump me, that's fine too. Let's see, Victor Hicks, what does F1 and F2 do normally? Well, that is the two wires that switches polarity in your motor. So if you switch it around and your car does go forward, or I'm sorry, if you switch them around and your car goes backwards but you lose forward, then you know your motor is fine because your motor is running both directions. See, that's what I'm trying to do there by telling you to do that. We're trying to eliminate your motor as being the problem, because those two wires are coming from your controller, switching polarity in your motor. So if you switch them around and the symptoms do the opposite, in other words, your car runs in reverse and doesn't run forward, then we know your motor's not the issue. Then we're going to go back to your controller. I know you said that you replaced the controller, but that's the thing that switches polarity. That's what I was saying. Did you understand what I said, Victor? Let's see. Okay. I mentioned the Golf Cart Season 2. That looks like it's going to be about it. I'll be back next week. We'll come here every week. See if I can appreciate everybody coming into the live chat this week. That always helps. I'll be back next week for episode 39. So until then, a Golf Cart Garage is going to be closed.